Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome distinguished alumni, Chancellor Riv, faculty, staff, and graduate students, and all our other guests. Both who are here in this beautiful hay barn, and I have to admit, it's the first time I'm here, but I just started 8 months ago, but it's a beautiful building. And for those, of course, here, as you can see, and they can hear us, who are not able to attend in person, but on Zoom. Welcome to the UC Santa Cruz Distinguished Graduate Student Alumni Award, an annual event to honor the luminaries who have received their graduate degrees from UCSC. I'm Peelo. I'm the new graduate dean and vice provost here at UC Santa Cruz, and I'm leading the graduate division and the wonderful staff who has put this event together. And we really are happy to welcome here and honor our alumni, Brian Levine, William Long, Harryette Mullen, Sarah Peelo, and Risa Wechsler. So an applause already to everybody. And they are the sixth cohort of distinguished alumni to receive this award. They join the growing list of graduate alumni of whom UC Santa Cruz and the programs it presents, and we are really happy that you found your program, and from everything what you learned from your mentors, who are sometimes also here with us, which is terrific, that you are really now a member here of our alumni at UC Santa Cruz. We will shortly learn some of the details about the 2022 honorees here and their time here at UC Santa Cruz. And I also encourage you to look at our graduate division website, where you really find their bios and everything what they achieved, which is really amazing. And as you all know, we did not have an event for 2 years due to COVID, and so I think we all feel it, that this is really special, that we can be here, celebrate in person, and really hopefully turn the corner to something which is much, much better. So I'm really, really happy that we are here and can celebrate together. We have here a hybrid event, as I told you, not only folks here on the screen, and I think we all have to agree that there are also advantages, actually, in this new technology, that we can have folks, wherever they are in their life right now, join us here, listen to us, speak to us, answer even questions, and that is also something which we really like. We have two alumni with us, and one just over the hill, and that is Risa Wechsler at Stanford. She is over here. And we have also Brian Levine flying all across the country from UMass Amherst. And since I was in Buffalo before, I think we share the love for snow, and you remember the wonderful time here at the most beautiful campus in the world. And we have also our honorees, Harryette Mullen and Sarah Peelo, who are here able to join us on Zoom, and who will also be happy to answer any questions. So it's really my great privilege, and I'm feeling really very, very happy and thankful that our deans of the 5 divisions are here, because that is what the university is all about. We are all here together. We have our chancellor, we have our deans, we have our mentors in the departments, and we have our graduate students. And I'm sorry, that I put you on the spot, but we have our competitor for this year's UC Graduate Slam. Could you just stand up and get an applause? No pressure, but we will all cheer with you, and we have a lot of watching parties already, and we are all with you. But you're already a winner. Thank you. So we are presenting here this award to alumni who represent all disciplines, as we heard from the social sciences, from the Baskin School of Engineering, from the Humanities, and also from the Arts Division, representing really what this university is all about. the full spectrum of the global liberal arts represented in our divisions here. And again, I really would like to stress again, represented by their deans and the faculty. So you will hear more about the work of our alumni, but I really would like also to say this event might be a little bit different, because when we talk about alumni, and I'm looking at our alumni from 50 years ago, I'm sorry that I point you out, if you could just stand up here for our Alumni Week, here from Los Angeles. 50 years ago, their kids even went here, and they're happy, and they all thrived and got wonderful jobs. Can I share that? And they fell in love here at UC Santa Cruz, and there is something like slug and love, right? Hashtag. So check it out. So thank you for coming. Thank you really for being a member, an alumni at this wonderful university. And what we really think also nowadays is that we can call you alumni as well. You got your graduate degrees. But you are alumni, you are in our family, and we are so extremely proud of you, what you have done and what you have achieved. And we can really be happy to have you among us here, that you are now also a part of our community. So that's really terrific. And of course, we are here today also to think about the next steps, and so that you can share. We have graduate students here. Where are you? What did you learn? What are the next steps in your career? This is also very important for us that you share that with us. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce our Chancellor, Cynthia Lerev, who is with us today. We know how busy she is, which shows you also how important that event is. Cynthia, thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Peter, and welcome to your first Distinguished Graduate Student Alumni Award ceremony. I know it will be just the first of many yet to come. I'm so appreciative, Peter, of the work you've done over this past year, and I look forward to your continued leadership. We're on a great trajectory here at UC Santa Cruz, and research and our impact of our research is really important to us as a university. We think about that impact in a number of ways. One of the ways I think about it is in terms of the citations of the research produced by UC Santa Cruz faculty and students, and we really excel in that area. But, you know, our most important product at this university is our alumni, our students who go on, and then they amplify what they learn here. And so we're just thrilled to see all of you here today. First of all, for all of you who count yourself as UC Banana Slug alums, and those graduate students who are our future alumni, welcome. And Alumni Week is just so fun, isn't it? It's a wonderful celebration of our shared heritage and history. And I'm just delighted that this Distinguished Graduate Student Alumni Award event has established itself as an Alumni Week tradition. I'm glad, too, that we're having a hybrid experience this year. I think we've learned a lot of tricks over the last couple years. One of those is that while it's just wonderful that we can all be together in person, it's also smart to be able to welcome into our community those who aren't able to travel. So I just give my best regards to all of you who are out there in the ether, and so many of you are here with us today in the Hay Barn. I would again offer my congratulations to this year's honorees. I know you just heard their names, but I think they bear repeating. William Long, Brian Levine, Harryette Mullen, Sarah Peelo, Risa Wechsler. Wow, what an impressive group of people, and I'm pleased to meet those of you who are in person and those of you who are on our screen. To all these alumni, I say this: your connection to UC Santa Cruz brings great honor and distinction to our university. The fact that you all work in different disciplines is a strong reminder that our alumni excel in a host of fields. You also serve as role models for our current cohort of graduate students, many of whom are watching today. So thank you. I offer my deepest appreciation. Congratulations. You know that graduate education is a vital part of UC Santa Cruz, and it's a defining aspect of the University of California mission. Graduate school is what brought me to the UC system. In 1988, I arrived in Riverside as a chemistry graduate student with my two little girls and husband, and I'm so thrilled that I have now the opportunity to lead this really amazing university. This life trajectory that graduate school sets us on isn't always predictable. I would have never thought I would be a chancellor, nor did that have much appeal at the beginning of my career, I would say. But I'm so glad that I have that opportunity now. On our campus, graduate students just are such an integral part of our campus. They contribute to our exploration, innovation, and discovery. Their research fuels our imaginations. It brings scientific breakthroughs, advances in social justice, and for those in the humanities and the arts, help us remember what it is to be human. In short, graduate education enriches all of our lives, and UC Santa Cruz degrees, masters and PhDs from nearly 50 programs spread across all our 5 academic divisions right now, we have about 1,900 graduate students. And I'd like to echo Dean Beal's respect and gratitude for our deans who have joined us today. I know being a dean is a really busy job, and I appreciate that you all take the time to be with us. So in 2019, UC Santa Cruz was elected to the Association of American Universities. This was something our campus aspired to since its earliest days. You may know that membership to the AAU is limited to institutions who are at the forefront of high-impact research and world-recognized education. And so we, along with UC Irvine, have a couple of distinctions I'd like to share with you. Yes, we're members of the AAU, as are 7 of the UC campuses. But importantly, we share the distinction of being the 2 youngest members of the AAU, both founded in 1965. But I think even more dear to my heart is that we are the 2 AAU universities that are designated as Hispanic serving institutions and Asian American, Pacific Islander, and Native American institutions. And so that commitment to diversity, to access, to equity in education and experience is really important to us here at UC Santa Cruz. So I just am excited about our trajectory as a university. I'm so grateful to see all of you have taken the time to join us today, and I can't wait to hear from our distinguished alumni. Thanks, everybody, for participating.
Hello, I have the privilege to introduce to you my dear former grad student, Brian Levine. And I'll just say too few of the wonderful things he has accomplished in his not too long career, but fantastic career to date. You will read far more information in the webpage. Brian got his BS in Applied Math and Computer Science from University of Albany. And maybe because of that, he wanted to have better weather in his grad studies. And he got his master's and PhD with me in computer engineering in 1999. It was his PhD. And now, after having experienced the wonderful weather in Santa Cruz, maybe he missed the winters with snow. So he went back, and now to the East Coast, and he's now professor of computer science at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. And he is the director of the Cybersecurity Institute, and also leads the Digital Forensics Lab at UMass. You can read a ton of the things that he has done over the years. I'm so proud of him. I will mention a few things because of the type of occasion we are all sharing today. He got the Outstanding Teaching Award at UMass in 2007. So in spite of my bad example, he actually learned how to be a wonderful teacher and mentor. He was selected ACM Fellow in 2020, and this is important for the contributions he made to network forensics, security and privacy, but also for the contributions he made to thwarting crimes against children. And I just think, well, I remember now, back in 99, I was a younger professor at the time. And it was, depends on how you count, Brian was the 6th or the 9th PhD graduates that I had in my group. Now we are into 47 of them, all equally wonderful and smart. But what I always love about Brian back then and now is that he always reminded me that there is more to what we do than technology. There is a humanistic aspect to what we do and why we do it. And the fact that his award, he was named ACM Fellow for such an important human component of society is just amazing. So without further ado, let me bring to the stage Brian, who reminds us all why it's so wonderful to do the teaching and the research at UC Santa Cruz. And it's a reminder to all of us that why we love what we do so much. And thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I'm actually just going to put this down because of the slant. Okay, so I have just 5 minutes, which is not nearly enough to express really how honored I am and how thankful and how nice it is to hear JJ talk about me. So I would just say I arrived here, I was 21, I was very young. It's actually been 23 years since I graduated, to give you some perspective. And I think, you know, this whole university and the friends I had and the faculty that are here or were here really taught me what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be as a person. And, you know, I really value coming from a place that taught me, as JJ said, you know, that values are important. And even in computer science, like what you do and how you act and the science that you do and how you treat other people is super important. So given the limited time, I just wanted, even though they're not here and some of them, you know, have even retired, I wanted to name faculty that were just in computer science and engineering that were important to me. Kevin Karplus, Alan Van Gelder, David Hausler, David Hembold, Alexander Branwin, Richard Huey, Fakin Kalitis, Anujan Varma, Darrell Long, Tracy Larrabee, and also I was really sad to hear that Jane Wilhelms died. She was really a great professor. So with JJ, you know, again, I don't have too much time, but I was really this like lump of clay that JJ molded with, you know, unbelievable patience and kindness and clarity, and you know, gave me the skills to not only graduate, which is maybe some of you have PhD students. I mean, what a marathon that is, but also that carried me beyond UCSC into the career I have, which enabled me to have a family, and so on. So the last thing I want to say is I have this story that I'm just going to compress to 1 minute, that it sort of gets across what's in my mind. And you know, if I could have done anything else, it would have been music. Like I have this love of music, but I'm just not a talented musician. But growing up, I was obsessed, along with my older brother and his friend Steve, with Elvis Costello. Maybe some of you know Elvis Costello is just legendary. I mean, so obsessed with him. And so this is really a story about Steve. So Steve went to college, graduated, and got this job. It was like a nowhere going job where he just called people who owed money for loans. And he decided what he really loved was music. And he went and became a sound engineer and then worked for Ladyland Studios. And then he became the sound engineer for The Roots, who you may know is the house band for Jimmy Fallon Live. And so as part of that job, he got to meet all these famous musicians, and he met Elvis Costello. And he had this vision for an album between Elvis Costello and The Roots, and it happened. Like, he convinced them to do it, and he got co-writing credit on it. It's called Wise Up Ghost. There's actually a podcast this week from Questlove. You can hear Steve interview Elvis Costello. They're friends now. And just think about that. Like, Steve had the chance to figure out what he loved to do. He found someone senior in the field to collaborate with and, you know, like, produce like what's really matters to them. Sorry. So obviously I had that with JJ, and like, that was my experience working with a rock star, you know, so thank you very much.
Professor Levine, there's always room for you in the music department if you ever feel like coming back. There is space for people who love music as much as for people who make it, and that is part of what we do, so thank you. I'm delighted to introduce William Long as the Arts Division 2022 Distinguished Graduate. Maestro Long completed a Bachelor of Arts in Music in 2011 and a Master of Arts with an emphasis in conducting in 2013. He's established himself as an innovative, collaborative conductor with a specialty in new cross-genre opera. William began his career as assistant conductor at Opera Parallel in San Francisco, where he worked with his UCSC mentor, artistic director Nicole Payma, who is no longer here but continues to run Opera Parallel and is a remarkable part of the greater UC Santa Cruz community. There he worked as the assistant conductor under Nicole Payman, and specialized in working on new operas that were being brought to the stage for the first time, in some instances with this particularly collaborative and innovative opera company that really is there to develop new opera. He has also worked in leading opera houses and symphony orchestras across America, and most recently in London, which is where he's currently based. And he's always demonstrated a particular facility with new work. I got to know William's work in connection with the opera Fire Shut Up in My Bones, which opened the New York Metropolitan Opera's 2021-22 season, and was the first opera by a Black composer and the first with a Black lyricist to be performed at the Met. Can you believe it took until 2021? William conducted the premiere of this remarkable work at the Opera Theatre of St. Louis in 2019, and consequently was deeply involved in the intense, changeable, and deeply collaborative workshopping of this complex production. The thing about new opera is that they remain works in flux right up to, and sometimes beyond, their first performance, and Fire Shut Up in My Bones was no exception. William was called upon to respond with virtuosic nimbleness and flexibility in a manner far beyond that demanded of conductors of exclusively established repertoire. Moreover, the innovations of this particular opera include rapid, fluent, and subtle genre shifts characteristic of composer Terence Blanchard's work. These types of genre crossings and disruptions offer a bold, long overdue challenge to the white and European dominance of opera. And yet, for conductors trained in the fundamentally conservative mainstream of the American opera world, this type of musical innovation easily becomes tokenizing and parodic. Not so under Maestro Long's baton. His deep engagement with Blanchard's musical palette and his experience with new opera meant that he conducted a rich, subtle, deeply moving production, which attracted the attention of the Met. William was assistant conductor for this production at the Met, but don't tell anyone, I found the subtle balance of his Opera Theatre of St. Louis production more effectively nuanced and a better vehicle for the rich drama of the opera than that of the Met's primary conductor. Maestro Long is unable to be present with us today because he's preparing a production of Carmen, so he does do conventional repertoire too, for the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., where he will demonstrate his equal facility with music from the standard repertoire. But he'll be back in the Bay Area working on his particular forte, new opera, in the fall. William Long represents the best of what a UC Santa Cruz arts degree can offer: innovation, collaboration, community, and the skills and intellectual curiosity to create politically and socially meaningful change.
Thank you for naming me the 2022 Arts Division Distinguished Graduate Student Alumnus. It is a huge honor, especially knowing how many talented colleagues and peers have come out of the UCSC Arts Division. I wish I could be in Santa Cruz now, but I'm working at the Kennedy Center on their first fully staged opera production since the start of the pandemic. I want to acknowledge how indebted I am to the music department at UCSC and how well they prepared me for the professional world, especially former head of ensembles Nicole Pemont, my piano and theory teacher Maria Estorova, and my theory and sometime piano teacher Anatol Lakin. I hope to make it back to UCSC soon. Thank you for this honor. It truly means a lot.
Hello. Hello, suns. Hello, rocks. Hello to this beautiful occasion. I'm a good student and a good student of Harryette Mullen's, which means that I am not a stranger to the stacks. So I visited them and I was stuck in the stacks. And out of the stacks, I made this. I'm deeply honored today to present to Professor Harryette Mullen, UC Santa Cruz's 2022 Humanities Division Distinguished Graduate Student Alumni Award. Dr. Mullen completed her MA in Literature in 1986 and PhD in Literature in 1990 here. She has since published dozens of poems, stories, books, and essays worldwide. She is the recipient of numerous fellowships and prestigious awards such as the PEN Beyond Margins Award, the Elizabeth A.G. Prize, U.S. Artist Fellowship, the Jackson Poetry Prize, a Guggenheim Fellowship, and the Academy of American Poets Fellowship. Mullen's books of poetry include Tree Tall Woman, 1981, Trimmings, 1991, Perm Sperm Kit, which I have in my bag, 1992, Muse and Drudge, 1995, Blues Baby, 2002, Recyclopedia, Trimmings, Sperm Kit, Muse and Drudge, a compilation of the three texts, 2006, and Urban Tumbleweed, Notes from a Tonka Diary, 2013. Mullen's Sleeping with the Dictionary was a finalist for the National Book Award, the National Books Critics Award, and the Los Angeles Times Book Prize. Listed in our program, along with our other esteemed Distinguished Alumni Award honorees, Mullen is named as a poet. Distinguished, this, as the kids say, and I do too, facts. I'd like to begin here in how incredible is Professor Mullen, her work and accomplishments as a poet, as one way to celebrate and explore, and how immediate is Mullen's adventures through form in our field, through its crucial presence, its possibilities now and for the future. Mullen mines the heart of her craft and thinking in her 2012 book of essays and interviews, The Cracks Between What We Are and What We Are Supposed to Be. Mullen writes in the opening essay entitled Imagining the Unimagined Reader, Writing to the Unborn and Including the Excluded. She writes, I write for myself and others. An other is anyone who is not me. anyone who is not me in some ways and unlike me in other ways. I write optimistically for an imagined audience of known and unknown readers. Many of my imagined readers have yet to encounter my work. Most of them are not even born yet. Many have written of Mullen's work as being exciting kin to those of her powerfully unique contemporaries, those who, in my opinion, are also of the greatest. Nate Mackey, one of her PhD advisors, Erica Hunt, Will Alexander, Myung-Mi Kim, all very different kinds of powerful poets, but for me, poets who adventure through experiment in the American landscape and beyond it, with many considerations in form, practice, and experiment, but who, I feel, are all committed, perhaps singularly, to the other, an other, another way to say us, us. In fact, Harryette has led so many of us contemporary poets, studying and being in company with the other as the other in poetry and being. At Cave Canem, an ongoing retreat for African American poets in my years there, in 1998 to 2000, Harryette was our teacher. I remember Professor Mullen speaking with us about the role of the unimagined reader, and our work perhaps to reach them, it, and for this poet then and this poet now, it connected directly to the form and formation of Blackness, a vivid and lucid category. Like poetry, to be held with as much rigor, turn, and study. I heard it through the grapevine. I heard it through the grapevine. It's true. After graduating in 1990 from UCSC to go on to teach at Cornell, Professor Mullen was already reaching us poets in the fields, across the poems for some and through her scholarship for others. I heard about Mullen and her dynamic classes at Cornell from the only other Black poet in my MFA class then, reached and touched by Mullen's work. And play, too. We did and did not imagine this. A scholar of African American literature, African diasporic studies, Mullen, through poetry and criticism, mines the spaces of language, power, violence, silence, sound, and as ever, possibility. I would say that not only am I honored to present this award to Professor Mullen, but I am lucky to have had the chance these few days to sit with Mullen's 1990 UCSC literature dissertation, Gender and the Subjugated Body, Reading of Race, Subjectivity, and Differences in the Construction of Slave Narratives, which is not only brilliant. After all, Mullen was already a deeply accomplished poet before arriving here with her first collection, Trimmings, already in the world, but so timely now in the ways that it explores the importance of embracing collective knowledge from those violated, illiterate, and us, then and now, however learned or not, in her comparisons between Harriet Jacobs, Frederick Douglass, and Equiano, among slave narratives, among people. This is where I am now, and thinking with Mullen about embodiment and texts, marks outside and in the body, those learned and those felt. I'd like to close with where I am now in thinking admiringly with the opening of Recyclopedia, where Mullen says, my poetry exists in part through interaction with communities of readers, writers, and scholars, and also through dialogue with editors and publishers. And I'd also like to close a little more loosely with what is surfacing now, a poem that I'd like to leave you with from, I think it's Blues Baby, the earliest poems from 2002. The poem is called Shedding Skin. Pulling out of the old scarred skin, old rough thing I don't need now, I strip off, slip out of, leave behind. I slough off dead scales, flick skin flakes to the ground, shredding toughness, peeling layers down to vulnerable stuff. And I'm blinking off old eyelids for a new way of seeing. By the rock I rub against, I'm going to be tender again. So welcome my dear friend and genius extraordinaire, the one and every Harryette Mullen. Bomb, diggity bomb.
Thank you, Ronaldo Wilson, poet and professor, for that heartwarming introduction. Thanks to Dean Jasmine Allender and all the sponsors and organizers of this event. I want to thank Carla Ferchero, Mika Perks, and Marilyn Patton, who nominated me for this award. My cohort at UCSC produced many worthy candidates for such an honor. When I arrived years ago in Santa Cruz with more hope than money, Gloria Watkins helped me find a place to live in what was even then a daunting rental market. I wound up with a milk crate bookcase and foam mat on the concrete floor of a garage rented from Roz Spafford, who headed the writing program. Roz encouraged me to apply for jobs in the Women's Reentry and EOP Summer Bridge programs while introducing me to the local poetry community. I remember Claire Braz Valentine, a playwright and poet who was a key staffer for literature, often the first person we grad students went to for information and support. Several Santa Cruz professors left lasting imprints on my intellectual and creative life. A number of them were among the founding faculty. Although many of them would not remember me, they contributed to shaping my life and work in the academy. My memories include Herman Blake, James Clifford, Michael Cowan, and my dissertation advisor, who was also Dean of Humanities at the time, Angela Davis, Bill Domhoff, Donna Haraway, Frederick Jameson, Marshall Lester, Boris Robinson, Paul Skenazy, Phyllis Rogers, Tom Vogler, Jerome New, and Nathaniel Mackey, who was then the only African-American professor working with grad students in literature, a crucial member of my dissertation committee. He also published my poetry in his eclectic journal, Hambone, and provided an extracurricular education in world music with his weekly public radio program, Tanganyika Strut. Several emeriti that I remember fondly after all these years are sadly no longer living. Harry Berger, Gabriel Byrne, Norman O. Brown, Michelle Cliff, Roberto Crespi, John Lynch, Helene Moglin, Priscilla Shaw, Joseph Silverman, and Hayden White. It still amazes me that I crossed paths with all these people. Two poets no longer living were influential faculty members, Al Young and Lucille Clifton. Their presence and their commitment to their art helped sustain my connection to poetry and the community of poets. I am still shaken by the loss recently of Gloria Watkins, known by her pen name, Bell Hooks. She wrote poetry and fiction in addition to many books of cultural criticism. I was her assistant for a course she taught in women's studies. The Santa Cruz Express published my review of her first book, Ain't I a Woman? Others I knew who have passed on, Alfred Arteaga, a member of my graduate cohort in literature, and from History of Consciousness, Gloria Anzaldúa, Ruth Frankenberg, and Elliot Butler Evans. My UCLA colleague, David Wong Louie, was an editor of Quarry West. He edited a special issue with Marilyn Chin. His papers are in the UCSC library collection. Friends and fellow travelers in literature, History of Consciousness, and beyond include a number of people still teaching and writing or both. Some of these people were graduates and some were graduate students and some were undergrads. Aliki and Tony Barnstone, Lisa Bloom, Lorna D. Cervantes, Vivek Dareshwar, Joanne Fordham, Herman Gray, Ed Guerrero, Maria Gutierrez, Elizabeth Horan, Karen Kaplan, Katie King, Lisa Lowe, Lata Mani, Patrick McGee, Ekua Omosupe, Marilyn Patton, Alvina Quintana, Diane Rayer, Catherine Rios, Elba Sanchez, Shayla Sandoval, Deborah Shapiro, Leah Starlight, and Ken Weisner, among others. My apologies for people I may have left out. Mary Schultz, I believe. My first academic writings were published by fellow graduate students, mostly from HISCON, who founded the Group for the Critical Study of Colonial Discourse. My affiliation with University of California is deep and abiding. In addition to outstanding scholars and teachers at UC Santa Cruz, I credit Mark Rose and the late Cedric Robinson, who championed my work as a doctoral fellow and lecturer at UC Santa Barbara. And I am fortunate, very fortunate, to be part of a supportive and intellectually stimulating community as a full professor, and I've been here for over 2 decades at UCLA. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mark Anderson. I'm the chair of the Anthropology department, at least for a few more weeks. And it's a real pleasure to introduce Dr. Sarah Peelo. I wanted to thank Cameron Monroe and Judith Habich-Moch for helping with the introduction. Judith was Sarah's advisor and can't join us here today. She lives in New Mexico, but I think is joining us from Zoom land. Dr. Peelo received her doctorate in anthropology at UCSC in 2009. She's a registered professional archaeologist and has over 15 years of experience in California archaeology. She has broad field methodological skills ranging from landscape investigations to detailed excavation of individual features, and is an expert in documentary research and material cultural studies. She was among the first cohort of PhD recipients in the department's archaeology track. After receiving the PhD, Dr. Peelo was awarded the highly competitive postdoctoral fellowship through the UC President's Postdoctoral Fellowship Program. And as a postdoc at UC Davis, Dr. Peelo continued to develop new techniques for detecting and theorizing the persistence of Native American peoples in Mission-era California. By analyzing the small, everyday fragments of pots made by indigenous peoples, as well as re-examining records of Native baptisms, deaths, and marriages at Central California missions, Dr. Peelo documented key instances of identity creation and vitality, whereas other scholars continue to focus on questions of mortality and cultural destruction. Dr. Peelo brought new energy and insight to the archaeology of California missions and inspired a new wave of students to investigate the nuanced responses of indigenous peoples to colonial intrusion. In 2012, Dr. Peelo joined the team of Albion Environmental, Inc., a Santa Cruz-based consulting archaeology company, and subsequently rose to become president and co-owner of this woman-owned company. Most of the owners and many of the employees on the archaeology side of the business are UCSC alumni. While Albion Environmental engages in broader environmental and ecological impact assessments, Dr. Peelo herself oversees projects that impact colonial and post-colonial archaeological sites. This consulting archaeology work involves close examination with state, federal, and private agency staff to assure preservation mandates are followed, consultation with indigenous descendant communities, and on-the-ground oversight of construction personnel. While leading Albion, Dr. Peelo has continued to produce a steady output of articles and book chapters on the historic experiences of regional Native Californians through the Mission, Mexican, and American periods, establishing herself as a respected member of the scholarly community working on such issues. Under Dr. Peelo's leadership, Albion has become a major professional partner and significant financial supporter of the UCSC archaeology program. Indeed, Dr. Peelo's quest to furthering our understanding of historic California is rooted in a firm commitment to training the next generation of California archaeologists, particularly students of color and students from disadvantaged economic backgrounds. In 2016, amid the challenges of managing a successful company, Dr. Peelo generously set aside time to organize and direct a multi-year archaeological field school for UCSC students at the Castro Adobe in Watsonville. This collaboration between Albion Environmental and the UCSC Archaeological Research Center, which continues to this day, has provided dozens of students hands-on experiences and training in archaeology. The UCSC Castria-Adobe Archaeological Field School was awarded the Society for Historical Archaeology's Diversity Field School Award for 2019, something of which the department is very proud. I think it's particularly fitting that Dr. Peelo has received a Distinguished Graduate Alumni Award. She truly embodies the values of our university, and it's amazing to have an alumnus that provides so much support to our students and to cultural management and preservation in California. So thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Mark. I'm honored, feel like a complete imposter following Dr. Mullen to be included in this cohort of distinguished graduate student alumni. Today I'll share with you just a glimpse about how I draw my experiences as a banana slug in my current role at Albion. Mark gave a little introduction about our company, but we've been around for about 20 years, and we guide clients through federal, state, and local environmental regulatory requirements. We consult with agencies and developers about the impacts of their projects on California's cultural and natural resources. We conduct scientific studies and create mitigation plans to ensure that our clients are compliant with environmental laws and regulations. The years that I spent as a graduate student at UCSC absolutely prepared me for my current role in many different ways, two of which I'll touch on today. One, the faculty at UCSC provided me positive modeling for how to navigate a male-dominated field and conduct reputable scientific studies. I chose UCSC for my graduate education in part because I was attracted to an all-female faculty who encouraged open dialogue about gender and labor. At the time of my application and for the duration of my graduate career, Drs. Galloway, Zillman, Gifford Gonzalez, and Habak Moshe operated and led the Archaeology Physical Anthropology program at UCSC. To be led by this group of women was inspiring and made envisioning a career in archaeology possible for me. My advisors taught me that being an archaeologist who can interpret gendered dynamics of the past meant learning about the gender dynamics of current archaeological practitioners. And that meant confronting biases about, for example, the suitability of women as field project leaders. My mentors in the anthropology department not only provided that example of representation, but demonstrated how to lead, mentor, excel in, and be critical of a male-dominated field. While spending hours studying ceramic thin sections at the microscope, we read and digested scholarly work about gendered roles in the discipline, situating the science we were doing as women's work. Taking from my lessons at UCSC, my Albion partners and I worked to demonstrate female leadership not only in archaeology, but in business. We encourage open dialogue concerning how being a women-owned firm sets us apart. Even before COVID turned our lives upside down, it had been one of our, and continues to be one of our strategic commitments as a company to provide flexibility and a work-life balance to our employees. We have open conversations with our field and lab crews regarding gendered roles on projects. We take a very collaborative approach to running our business and our projects and seek to be a place where underrepresented staff can feel comfortable and seen. Feminist theory was an important component of my training as a graduate student at UCSC, but so too was material science, the place where, as Judith liked to say, the rubber met the road. My material science education, or through my material science education, I was instilled with a strong commitment to first principles. At Albion, we're dedicated to answering any research question first with the most basic technology, and then adding new techniques and tools as necessary, always with an understanding of how those technologies work and how they address the original research question. We pride ourselves not only in guiding our clients through the full environmental review process, but in conducting reputable scientific studies in the process. For example, we're currently assisting Santa Cruz City Schools as they work to mitigate impacts to cultural resources recently encountered at Santa Cruz High School during an underground utility replacement project. We're working in collaboration with both the Ama Mutsun Tribal Band and the Indian Canyon Mutsun Band of Costanoan to recover and analyze and study and report on artifacts and Native American human skeletal remains from a known pre-colonial habitation site located on the school grounds that dates to over 1,000 years before the present. Our story is still currently unfolding, but our study is illustrating that this woman who died in her mid-30s was buried with plant mortuary offerings in the spring to early fall. In addition, we're working with UCSC faculty Beth Shapiro and Ed Green and UCSC alumni Chelsea Juarez at the Fresno State Forensics Lab to conduct a full inventory of the remains, assess pathological conditions and trauma, and conduct specialized studies to provide insight into ancestry and different aspects of human behavior pertaining to diet and mobility. Later this year, we will work with the school district and the tribes to deliver a presentation of the archaeological findings and native interpretations to Santa Cruz High School students and reinter the human remains and associated grave goods at Santa Cruz High School. Through our work at Albion, we aim to foster an appreciation of cultural and biological diversity. Through education and thoughtful management of heritage and ecosystems, we promote preservation and conservation of California's resources. We believe that understanding the past and our environment contributes to a world where sustainability and diversity are respected. Importantly, Albion's vision is in alignment with the education that you see anthropology students receive. While geography might explain it, being that Albion is located in Santa Cruz, I think there are other ways to explain why so many anthropology graduates from UCSC are Albion employees. Our shared vision has also led to Albion's collaboration with the UCSC Anthropology Department in the Archaeological Field Methods course that Mark mentioned, located at another Santa Cruz County archaeological site, the Rancho San Andreas Castro Adobe. This project has been really fulfilling to be able to support state parks and the Friends of Santa Cruz State Parks in their efforts to restore, interpret, and open to the public this newest state historic park in California, but it also provides UCSC students an opportunity to learn hands-on archaeological field methods and also this industry of cultural resource management. I'm very, very grateful for my training at UCSC, the lessons that were instilled in me, the relationships I made while studying there, and the future I see in collaborating with UCSC staff and faculty and employing future UCSC graduates. So thank you very much for honoring me with this recognition and valuing the work that we do at Albion.
So it's my privilege and honor to introduce my former graduate student, Risa Wechsler, who's right over there and who you'll hear from shortly. As some of you know, the modern picture of the universe was largely developed here at UC Santa Cruz in work that I did with George Blumenthal, who subsequently became chancellor, and Sandy Faber. That was in the early 1980s. But we didn't really know which version of the theory, if any, actually described the universe. We didn't have a lot of data, and we didn't know, for example, the nature of dark matter and whether there's dark energy and the nature of that. We still don't. But we do know a lot about them now. And the big change occurred in the late 1990s, 97, 98 especially, with the discovery, among other things, of the accelerating expansion of the universe, which means that there's a huge amount of what we call dark energy. And that's when Risa came, along with several other brilliant students, to work with me, Sandy Faber, George Blumenthal, and others. And they came at just the right moment to be able to actually start to piece the various pieces together of this puzzling jigsaw puzzle that we have to try to figure out how the universe really works. We were just able to do computer simulations that described the nature of the dark matter, how it clumps together to make what we call the dark matter halos, a terrible name. They're actually not spherical, but sort of spherical lumps that have a structure internally. And one of the things that Risa did was to figure out how the internal structure of these dark matter halos is connected to how they organize themselves in space. A big project that she's done tremendous work on in her career since she finished her PhD is to try to understand what kind of galaxies fit into the different kinds of dark matter halos. The galaxy halo connection, we call it. So after finishing here, Risa was a postdoc at the University of Michigan, where she met her partner, who's here, and then a Hubble Fellow, a very high honor, and postdoc at the University of Chicago. And then she came to Stanford University, where she's been ever since, and also SLAC, the Stanford Linear Accelerator Center. And she's now, for the last couple of years, been the third director of KIPAC, the Kavli Institute for Particle Astrophysics and Cosmology, which is one of the major centers in that area. But in addition to, and along the way, Risa has continued to do path-breaking research and to start and lead several of the most important big studies, big surveys. So I'll mention just a couple of them. One is the Dark Energy Spectroscopic Instrument, DESI, as we call it, which is a program to measure the redshifts, which is basically mapping the universe, on a huge scale. After more than 10 years of work in many different telescopes, but especially one in New Mexico, astronomers had measured about 3 million redshifts, 3 million accurate distances to galaxies in different directions. The DESI project is measuring that many every month. And it will soon have increased by an order of magnitude, the number that we have and the area of the sky that's surveyed. And it's a pathbreaker for a number of other projects that will be working at the same level, but for example, in the southern hemisphere. And then also doing it from space. The Europeans are going to be putting up a satellite that will also be measuring, not quite as accurately, tens of millions of redshifts. One of the projects that Risa's also started and helped to lead, along with another UCSC alum, Martha Gia, who's now at Yale, is studying 100 analogs of the Milky Way, other galaxies, to find their little dark matter and galaxy companions, their satellite galaxies. And one of the things that she's also doing is studying especially the nearby satellites, galaxies that have as few as only a few hundred stars that we can see. And one of the things that particularly delights me that Risa's been able to do with that work, including some work that she described here that isn't published yet, is to help to constrain the nature of dark matter and to show that it's looking very much like the cold dark matter theory that we developed back in the early 1980s. So remains to be seen, of course, what the dark matter really is and what the dark energy really is. But Risa is going to be helping to lead the effort to figure those things out. So I expect she's going to tell you a little bit about this grand adventure that we're in and what she's been doing in it. I'll just add one more thing. I just learned from Brian Levine, who of course was honored here as the first of our distinguished alumni, that he was a roommate with two of the other graduate students that were here as part of this team that worked with me, as Risa did. And they've all gone on to really wonderful careers. So one of his students is now the Dean of Physical Science at UC Irvine. Another one of the graduate students, not the roommate, but who was here around the same time. So that was Ari Mahler, who's now a professor in New York. And apparently they've remained friends, and Risa was also part of this gang. And actually, Brian said that he heard about me and all of this work, but we never actually met before until today. So I'm really delighted that we can all be here for this remarkable celebration. Risa? So people are getting these wonderful little Annie Glass awards with they're all inscribed. So
thank you, Joel.
yes.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Joel, and thank you to everyone who's made it possible for me to be here. It's a great honor, and I knew it was an honor before arriving, but I have to say, after hearing about the accomplishments of the other 4 honorees, it feels like even more of a really deep honor to be part of this really distinguished group and to be part of this really wonderful university community. Which really did launch my career in many ways. Joel told you a little bit about how exciting it was scientifically at the time when we were here. I did my very first project working with George Blumenthal. He really helped me think about how the universe works in a way that stays with me today. I learned a tremendous amount from Joel. One of the things I always tell my graduate students early on is that one of the things that's really important to learn in graduate school, more important than writing some papers or anything else, is learning how to think and learning how to choose problems. And actually, that's one thing that Joel taught all of his students very well, is how to choose problems and how to just think about what's important. And that's really something that has stuck with me. Sandy Faber was also a mentor to me, and from Sandy, I really learned about going where the data is. And I came to the physics department, but was deeply also involved in the astronomy department. I took a class my first quarter from Sandy. I still influences how I think about almost every problem in astronomy. And yeah, she really taught me to, I trained as a theorist, but really to be driven by the data. And certainly that time in 97, 98, and the following years was a very exciting time when we changed our understanding of what the universe was made of. But the last 20 years have been tremendously exciting. And I think, as Joel kind of indicated, I think we're almost guaranteed that the next 20 years is going to be as exciting. We have new observatories coming online, new detectors that we're building to figure out what dark matter is. I'm really lucky to lead an institute that is doing everything from theory to observation to experiment on all scales, including things that you can only do at a national lab, like building, we're building a 3.2 gigapixel camera just over the hill. I'm gonna install that on a camera in Chile in about 9 months, and it will take a picture of the sky every 3 nights, half the sky. It's gonna be just spectacular. So being at Santa Cruz really instilled in me this kind of deep love for discovery. And that has stayed with me. I feel incredibly lucky that I just get to think about these really big questions every day. What is the universe made of? How did it form? And how did we get here? How did galaxies form? How did we create the conditions for life? And the other thing that I have to say, I was really honored to get this award, not only for my scientific accomplishments and for my scientific leadership, but also, in the original message, highlighting the work that I have done to try to broaden understanding of science and broaden participation in science, which have both been things that are really, really near and dear to my heart, and a lot of what keeps me motivated on a day-to-day basis in doing what I do. I've had both the extreme challenge and privilege of leading a large institution during a pandemic for the last 3.5 years. That's been, it's had many ups and downs. But it has also given me a real sense of purpose and a real thing that keeps me going and motivated. I really appreciated what you said about Santa Cruz. I think it was innovation, collaboration, and community. And I think, those are at the heart of Santa Cruz. They are at the heart of how I try to think about how I lead an institution, really about collaboration with all kinds of people, with all kinds of expertise. It's one of the things that I work in both small teams and, as Joel mentioned, 500-person teams. I love that because you get to work with people with very different expertise. And I love also collaborating across disciplinary boundaries. At Santa Cruz, I was lucky to know engineers like Brian, psychologists, a really wonderful group of people that we got to spend time with, and it's one of the things that I continue to love about being in a university community. I had the opportunity yesterday to spend the whole day in the physics and astronomy departments. I gave a talk on Thursday, as Joel mentioned, and I just want to mention two things. One is that this was my first in-person science visit in a few years. It was deeply exciting just to get to, talk science with people in person in a way that I hadn't had the opportunity to do for the last few years. And I also had about an hour to sit with the women in physics and astronomy, mostly undergrads, and just hear how they're thinking about things. And it was a really, it made me deeply also appreciate how important community is and how important it is to build those spaces where you have community. I think the pandemic has made some of those things much more challenging. And it's certainly, as I think about how to continue to lead and be a role model, it's one of the things that I think a lot about is how do we build inclusive and supportive communities at all levels. Because I feel so lucky that I get to think about these deep problems every day, and that opportunity has not been available to everyone, and that's certainly something that motivates me every day to broaden that opportunity so that everyone gets to have the excitement about the universe that I do. Thank you.
I'm blown away. So, in the galaxy. So what can I say? I mean, it's live, and we will use it to tell all the world what a wonderful university this is. And I hope that all of you go back to your universities and send us the best undergraduate students, because I'm sure you want to keep your graduate students at your institution. So, and please do also look at the backside, take that with you. Follow on Twitter all our amazing divisions here on Facebook. Click the button I like, and create this community in the modern way. And I am so thrilled and thankful for this event. And I'm even more happier now to open the floor for discussion. And if I could ask our panelists virtually to put on your cameras and unmute yourself. And then I'm looking at Sonia.
And I would love for the graduate students here, please stand up if you're recognized, if you're a graduate student, and I would love for you to take this opportunity to ask some questions. But graduate students, let yourselves be known. If you're here, please stand up.
You want people to come to the podium that everybody can, or just stand up?
They don't need to come to the podium, they can stand up, and the podium would be helpful for here. Sure, come up to the podium. Don't be shy. All right, come on, Amanda, lead us off. I would love for you to come up. Thank you. Amanda, our grants
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you for inviting me to this event. It's really inspiring to hear that there are career paths after graduate school, and there's hope. But one of the things that I've been thinking about, I'm actually moving on from graduate school this year, so I've been thinking a lot about still what I want to do with my life. And I've been inspired by how graduate school opens up so many paths for you, whether it was something that you traditionally thought was going to happen or something you didn't expect to happen. And so I would just love to hear about your own journeys. How does your career currently compare to the idea that you had when you were starting graduate school?
I can provide a perspective. My career is not one that I envisioned when I was in graduate school. I, like many of us, anticipated being a professor, working at a university, and that didn't happen for me. But at the same time, it's competitive. There's a lot of students and very few jobs, especially in archaeology, my discipline. However, I wouldn't have it any other way, honestly. I feel like the position that I have right now is absolutely fit for me. And I didn't know how to get into this position, into this field as a graduate student. I didn't have those mentors who knew this field and this industry necessarily, because my mentors were professors, so that they wouldn't. But I guess I just encourage you to identify things in your field, in industries that you might fit into, and explore those and take opportunities. I just, through connections that I had made, landed this job that I currently have. So make sure you're making connections with people and not shutting any doors, keeping things wide open for yourself, and taking opportunities that seem like they might be they might make you happy.
Looks like Harryette's gonna. Oh yeah, I could just say that when I went to graduate school, it was kind of a leap of faith, because there hadn't been many jobs or opportunities, when I graduated with my BA as an English major. And I did a lot of part-time and strange, odd jobs. And graduate school was just a hope and a prayer. I didn't quite picture myself as a professor, but I knew I wanted to keep learning. And as I kept learning, I also, yes, as Sarah said, made connections to other communities beyond the university, within and beyond the university. And again, looking for the open doors wherever they are, and walk through those open doors, because even when you think it's just a big blank wall, there will be a little hidden door, and you can open that door.
Thank you. Risa or Brian, did you have anything to add to that?
Sorry, should I go up here? Okay, that's a fantastic question, and I actually love hearing about other people's journeys. One thing is, I think that lives always look linear from like when you look backwards, and they never feel like that when you're going in the forward direction. My life certainly did not feel linear at any step. It did not feel like it was going to get to any next step. It felt very uncertain. And I think, as you look back, it can feel, so then you look at other people's careers and you're like, well, they did this, and then this, and then this. It certainly didn't feel like that to me at the time, but I love what Harryette said about walking through open doors. I'm just really stubborn and really, I keep doing the things that I love to do. So there were lots of stumbling blocks along the way, but there also was so much joy. and so much wonderful community and so much exciting questions that I could answer, that those things kept me going. Both kind of the exciting scientific questions, but also the wonderful people that I was able to interact with and learn from and feel like that they were able to learn from me. So those things all, I think, helped me kind of always take the next step.
I guess my 2 cents would be, you know, when I was here, computer science was popular, but it's not across the country. You know, it's crazy popular now, and so it's been an interesting journey to see that. But where my career is taking me that I didn't expect was this multidisciplinary aspect that, I don't know, maybe other fields are automatically multidisciplinary, but computer science can be very, and maybe you're thinking like, oh, we got together with bio and we have bioinformatics. Like, I work with a lot of people in law, you know, which I would consider closer to the humanities. And so I wrote a lot of papers with a criminologist, a sociologist. But the most important thing there is not the multidisciplinary aspect of it. I would say there are, you know, I'm at a university, we're all from, you know, this great university, and sometimes academics, sometimes our degrees can be held too high, I think, in some sense. And what I mean by that is there are people there's a guy I work with closely for the last 10 years who has a high school diploma, and that's it. And I've seen him in a room of myself. It was like 3 assistant U.S. attorneys and like a lead counsel for, you know, very prominent justice agency. And he led the room and told us, like, this is how we're going to do it. And I have, you know, so much respect for him and other people I've met in my life who don't just come from our way of academic thinking, but just other life stories, and bringing that to what you do can lead you to places that are amazing. So.
I wanted to add just one more thing. I was thinking, I recently heard a metaphor that really resonated with me, maybe because I'm an archaeologist and I like maps a lot, but you could think about your future as a map, and you've got it all laid out, and you take, you know, this road to get you to this point, and then you take this road to get you to this other point. That's never really how it works out. Just take your compass. Take your compass, point it in the direction that you think you want to go, and follow it. And that direction's going to change as you navigate through your career.
Yeah, and let me also, before we all mingle, and there is food on the table and still there, let me thank again all our distinguished awardees that they came here and participated, and they are our role models. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you. And everybody who participated here, those wonderful introductions, and I don't want to pick on anybody, they were all amazing introductions. And let me also say, I would like to really also especially thank Sonia Newley, who really led this. But what you see here is graduate division. Almost everybody of the staff is here preparing, and it's not that the first event of Alumni Week, and Chancellor LaRiff was saying how important this week, Alumni Week, is. We had yesterday the research symposium with amazing presentations as well. So if the staff of GradDiv could stand up and get an applause, everybody. Such an amazing team to lead. And again, I would like to thank you all for coming here, all distinguished guests, alumni, speakers, presenters. and deans coming in their busy schedule, and of course our Chancellor, the Rev. And with that, I wish you a wonderful rest of the Alumni Week. Go out in this beautiful weather here at the most beautiful campus in the world. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you.